was getting late on a Wednesday. It was about 1:30, and I was getting ready to go to sleep when someone in my Discord posted a tweet. I recently learned that my husband, ProJared, has been fucking Holly Conrad behind my back for months. I have no idea what announcement he's just made because he blocked me. And that was how I lost the rest of the night. For those of you who are unfamiliar with ProJared, he's a relic. He's one of those people from 2011, 2012 who made reviews over classic video games, and because his production values were moderately high, he started to accumulate subscribers at a pretty good rate. He actually went over 1 million. ProJared was part of a group called Normal Boots. Normal Boots was one of those weird channel collectives from the early 2010s, sort of like Channel Awesome, but they were still centered on YouTube. YouTube wasn't as strict with video game content as they were with film content, so they could still monetize on YouTube. Around 2013, 2014, YouTube redid its whole monetization system, and you didn't really need this group effort to protect you from copyright claims. So Normal Boots somewhat dissolved, but most of those people still use the iconography in their videos. It sort of gave this weird sense of community, even if there wasn't a central site or anything that you could use. Some Normal Boots alumni include JonTron, Peanut Butter Gamer, The Completionist. Most of them have distanced themselves from Normal Boots since then. Some by choice and others not so much. ProJared was one of the few who was still on Normal Boots' website and would get retweeted by all the official accounts. Now, while most of these channels had over 1 million subscribers, they were kind of empty subscribers. Yeah, there were a lot of them, but most of them weren't actively watching. It's sort of like how different foods can have the same amount of calories, but different levels of nutrition. If Red Letter Media is like a grilled chicken that's full of protein that's good for you, guys like Peanut Butter Gamer are cotton candy. Your body's not getting anything out of consuming this. As a result, their fame was tenuous. That's probably why a lot of people actually hadn't ever heard of ProJared, and the ones who had only heard of him a long-ass time ago. Guys like JonTron and the Angry Video Game Nerd still have a place in the zeitgeist, but ProJared and Peanut Butter Gamer don't. Now, while all this unfolded around midnight for me on the East Coast, on the West Coast where ProJared and his wife live, it was only about 9 or 10 o'clock, so they sort of were still in prime time when this was happening. So it was around 9 o'clock when ProJared took to Twitter and released this statement. My wife Heidi and I have filed for divorce. I know this may come as surprising and upsetting for many of you, but know that we do this so that we may both seek happiness for ourselves. During this time, you may see a lot of rumors, speculation, and gossip going around. I ask that you make your own observations and come to your own conclusions. I will add that this decision was reached after extensive individual therapy on my part and couples therapy together. With that said, this is all I plan on stating publicly regarding this matter. Heidi's privacy, mental well-being, and discretion has always been and will remain my highest priority through all of this. It is my hope that we both exit this marriage with style and grace. I plan on continuing to do everything I can on my part to make this happen. Thank you for your understanding, patience, kindness, and respect for our privacy. This statement is Manipulation 101. As you can see here, the first thing he really focuses on is the idea that you're going to see rumors and gossip and speculation. That's to preempt any criticism his ex-wife is going to put out there of him. That's also sort of a get-out-of-jail-free card that his fans can throw out. Well, that's all just speculation. That's all just gossip. Shit like that. He then plays the victim, talking about all the therapy he's gone through on his own and all the couples therapy he was part of to try to make it work. He doesn't list that she had individual therapy, just him. Then he does the opposite, and he tries to gaslight her. Heidi's privacy, mental well-being, and discretion has always been and will remain my highest priority. Almost like those are things she has trouble maintaining, isn't it? These are all little subtle manipulation tactics that you see people use a lot, especially on the internet. It's a statement that brings forth more questions than if he had not said anything at all. And frankly, nothing really needed to be said. It could be as simple as him just saying, me and Heidi are being divorced. Life took us in different paths. A lot like Ross O'Donovan, the editor for Game Grumps, who divorced his wife back in September of last year. His tweet was very simple and very nice. It was clear that they left on amicable terms just because life took them in different directions, right? And they're doing great. Ross O'Donovan has a job editing film trailers. A dream job, really. And his wife, Holly Conrad, oh, she's the one that ProJared was cheating on his wife with. Well, ain't that just something? It's funny how that works out, ain't it? Jared's statement sent Heidi on a warpath, and rightfully so. It was very obvious that he was using this preemptively so that if she did say anything, no one would believe her. Didn't really work out that way. According to Heidi, Jared had been cheating on her with Holly for months. An exact time frame was hard to pin down. It does look like Holly waited a month or two after her divorce to strike up this relationship with Jared, but there is evidence to the contrary. For one, she seemingly wanted to move out to Seattle, away from Los Angeles, for no real reason. Seattle just so happens to be where Jared and his wife lived. How about that? Holly also paints Jared as an emotional abuser. According to her, he had pushed off all the responsibility for their relationship going south onto Heidi. He'd also ostracized her from their group of friends. She'd been living in near isolation for about a year. Those are classic manipulation tactics that we've seen in other abusers that we've talked about before. People like Boogie and Onision. They try to make you emotionally dependent on them by cutting you off from your friend circle. The fact that Jared did this with their mutual friend circle just sort of goes to show how brazen he was about his abuse. Notably, the aforementioned Peanut Butter Gamer took to Twitter to defend his boy ProJared. He seemed to confront Heidi on her tweet chain when it was still pretty early and let her know this probably wasn't a good move on her part. Why publicly divorce your husband on Twitter, even though her husband had literally done the same thing 20 minutes earlier? Peanut Butter Gamer's a little notable because he threw JonTron under the bus pretty quickly when JonTron was in hot water for taking on a lot of alt-right talking points in a debate with a Twitch streamer. JonTron being sort of a shitty dude, it makes sense you'd want to distance from them publicly. But I think on the stack of internet sins, cheating on your wife and then throwing her under the bus is a lot worse than talking about politics that you don't fully understand. Heidi continued to air out Jared's dirty laundry for most of the night. The big one was that Jared apparently had multiple social media accounts just for soliciting nudes from his fan base. Now, she does maintain that these were consenting adults, at least at first, and it seemed more along the lines of soft core. There wasn't any exact nudity happening here, at least none that she saw. But it didn't take long for former fans to come out in solidarity with her and show that Jared had been sending them full-on nudes. There's more than one image of ProJared's cock out there, which is kind of like having a landmine planted somewhere in your yard. Even if you don't go looking for it, there's a chance you might come across it by accident one day, and it's not going to be pretty. Soliciting nudes from your fans when you're married is a pretty scummy thing to do. It's kind of a scummy thing to do no matter what. But it crosses the line to illegal when, as some people who came forward claimed, they were 15 or 16 when it happened. Now, admittedly, I don't know the age of consent in Washington, And I don't know the age of consent wherever these girls were when this happened, and I don't know the inner dynamic of consent laws when it's happening across multiple states like that. But it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, maybe don't fuck with people who might be younger than you. As one person said, they made it clear that they were under 18, but he still seemed to be pretty aggressive with his lewd selfies, so to speak. On top of this, one of these people actually showed proof that they had been in contact with Normal Boots, that big interconnected network that he and Peanut Butter Gamer and Did You Know Gaming were a part of. They had sent them the evidence that he had done this, and Normal Boots wrote back that they were going to look into it internally. Now, Normal Boots has since made a statement that they were looking into it internally and that they were preparing plans to separate Jared's content away from theirs entirely. That was in the process, and they were just waiting for their legal team to go through it. But that's challenged by the word of one man, Forrest First, spelled F-U-R-S-T, so we're back in this territory again, wrote out a Twitter thread just around the time this happened where he made it very clear that he was defending ProJared. As he puts it, ProJared is one of the kindest, warmest, open people I have ever met. His first concern has always been about other people, those he cares about, and today is no exception. When he and Heidi moved to Seattle about 1.5 years ago, I could tell something was up. Jared would get quiet and distant, and it was sad almost all the time. He never wanted to talk about it. We could tell something was up, and I now realize why he never said anything. I have to reiterate, never once has Jared talked negatively towards Heidi to me, and he's also never been shy about talking about his feelings towards other people, literally ever. He didn't want to hurt Heidi, and he didn't want Holly to get hurt. Now, you may be wondering what First's association with Normal Boots is. Well, pretty intrinsic. He runs the Normal Boots Twitter account, and he may run more of their social media stuff. So when Normal Boots then releases a statement separating themselves from ProJared, it's hard to take it seriously when you know the person who posted it had been defending him just a few hours before. So what's next for good old ProJared? Well, probably nothing. ProJared's main channel is kind of dead. His last video was 4 months ago, and the one before that was 8 months ago. He mainly does streams and side content on a different channel, but it's very clearly nowhere near as big as what his main channel was at. If you have a consistent output and a good work ethic, you can barrel through controversies like these, but ProJared has neither of these things. He crawled his way up past 1 million subscribers, but as of right now, he is struggling to keep his head above 900,000. And that number is continuing to drop pretty steadily. It's hard to imagine any more revelations coming out about ProJared. This all happened so fast and so smoothly that if there was anything else, I'm sure we would have heard about it by now. And it's pretty hard to get worse than soliciting nudes from minors and having your 4-inch peener out there on kiwi farms. This is likely the end of ProJared. He may continue to make a living off of YouTube, but he'll return to obscurity, and chances are no one's really going to want to associate with him. The bigger implications, I believe, are for Normal Boots and their mishandling of this situation. Even if they wanted to properly investigate these claims, and it took as long as they claimed it took, they still never made a public statement. If ProJared is soliciting nudes from minors, there's no reason why he wouldn't do the same to minors he meets at conventions, or minors who reach out to him. That makes him a public menace, and the public should know if someone's doing this so that way they can take the proper steps to protect themselves. It's not a he said, she said either. You can see very blatantly ProJared's face in those nudes that he sent out. A face that I'm never going to be able to unsee. And that's kind of it. It's really funny. There's been a lot of really fucking killer jokes about it. But truth be told, there's not a whole lot else to dig into. We're likely never going to hear about ProJared, Holly Carmack, or Heidi ever again. But for one night, they were the most entertaining people in the world. And for that, I thank you, ProJared. Goodbye, everybody.